Chapter 4. Captain Zavas strode through the chapter fortress's vaulted corridors, his ornate robes sweeping behind him. The fabric, deep crimson with gold threading, bore intricate patterns of dragons wreathed in clouds that seemed to shift and move in the dim lighting. His hood, drawn low, cast shadows across his augmetic eye, while the weight of his rank was represented not by ceramite plate, but by the ancient symbols of office worked into his vestments. The Medici Chamber's entrance bore the symbol of the chapter's apothecarian, a white sword crossed with a double helix. Inside the chamber was a study in pristine efficiency. Rows of examination slabs gleamed under bright lumens, while servitors moved methodically between monitoring stations. The air held the sharp scent of disinfectant and sacred unguents. "Brother Apothecary," Zavas called out, spotting the white-armored figure of Apothecary Thaddeus hunched over a data slate. "A moment of your time." Thaddeus straightened, his Narthesium-equipped arm whirring softly as he turned. "Captain, I wondered when you would come. The headaches again." "Worse," Zavas admitted, pulling back his hood to reveal the dark circles under his organic eye. The dragon patterns on his sleeves seemed to writhe in the sterile light as he moved. "The visions are bleeding into my waking hours now. I'm not alone in this. Half my command squad reports similar symptoms." Thaddeus gestured to an examination slab. "The librarius has been keeping me informed of the situation. Your neural readings show increased activity in the same regions we typically associate with psychic sensitivity." "I am no psyker," Zavas said firmly, though he sat on the indicated slab, his robes settling around him like liquid shadow. "My mind was tested thoroughly before implantation, as all aspirants are." "And yet," Thaddeus replied, running an auspex over the captain's skull, "something is reaching out to you, to all of you. The question is whether this is a threat to be contained or a message to be understood." The auspex's machine spirit chirped as it gathered data. Zavas watched the readings scroll past, his augmetic eye automatically translating the medical cant. "Have you ever seen anything like this before, brother?" "Once," Thaddeus said quietly, setting down the auspex. "During the Cassian campaign, when we found those ancient Xenos ruins. The entire Third Company reported similar symptoms, shared visions, persistent thoughts, a feeling of being called. We lost 17 brothers before we understood what we were dealing with." Zavas's organic eye narrowed, the movement causing the dragon patterns on his hood to ripple. "And what were you dealing with?" "A psychic beacon," Thaddeus replied, studying a fresh set of readings. "Left behind by a civilization that fell before mankind first reached for the stars. It was designed to transmit knowledge, but human minds were never meant to receive its signal. The results were unfortunate. You think this is similar?" "No," Thaddeus said, studying a fresh set of readings. "This is different. More focused, more imperial, if that makes sense. Whatever is calling to you, Captain, it knows exactly who and what you are. The question is, why you? Why now?" Thaddeus lowered the auspex, its machine spirit giving one final chirp as he studied the collected data. The dragons on Zavas's robes seemed to coil restlessly in the infirmary's harsh light. "Your neural patterns show signs of prolonged void exposure," Thaddeus said, gesturing to a particularly complex series of readings. "The Geller fields protect us from the warp's worst influences, but extended travel through the immaterium still takes its toll, even on Astartes' physiology." Zavas's augmetic eye whirred as it focused on the data. "We've been pushing hard these past months, 6 consecutive void deployments, barely time for repairs between." "The mind needs anchoring, Captain," Thaddeus explained, preparing a small vial of clear liquid. "Real gravity, real air, real light, not just the artificial environment of our ships. Even the finest life sustainers can't perfectly replicate these things. He handed the vial to Zavis. This will help with the immediate symptoms, but what you really need is planetfall, a proper port call. The captain turned the vial between his fingers, watching the liquid catch the light. The chapter master won't like delays, not with what Marcus and the others discovered. The battle barge's massive engines began their adjustment sequence, the deck plates humming beneath their feet as the mighty vessel prepared to alter its course through the immaterium. Throughout the fleet, the massive battle barges and their escort vessels hummed with activity. The void between them flickered with signal lights and short-range Vox transmissions as the commanders acknowledged the order. Emperor's Wrath acknowledging course correction. Sword of Dawn confirms, preparing for realignment. Charging Bull stands ready, blessed be the Emperor's guidance. In the swirling darkness between the capital ships, Thunderhawks and other small craft maneuvered with precision, their pilots guiding them home to their respective hangars. The blue flare of their engines cut bright lines through the void as they docked one by one, each landing accompanied by the clank of magnetic clamps and the hiss of pressurizing airlocks. Inside the main battle barge's cavernous launch bay, deck crews scrambled to secure the incoming craft. Servitors and chapter serfs moved in practiced patterns, connecting fuel lines and running diagnostic rituals. The air filled with the scent of promethium and sacred oils as tech priests began their post-flight blessings. Above in the navigation spire, the navigators prepared for the complex maneuver of redirecting such a large fleet through the warp. Their third eyes pulsed beneath their hoods as they communed with their counterparts on the other vessels, ensuring their movements would be perfectly synchronized. In the depths of the ships, Geller field generators thrummed with energy, their protective barriers never wavering as the fleet prepared to adjust its course through the immaterium. The machine spirits of the mighty vessels seemed to sense the coming change, their ancient systems singing with anticipation of the course correction to come. Through it all, the dragon patterns on Captain Zavis's robes continued their restless dance, as if they too could sense the shift in the fleet's destiny. Through the massive battle barges, life continued its disciplined rhythm as the fleet carved its path through the warp. In the training halls, the steady thud of combat practice echoed as initiates drilled under the watchful eyes of their sergeants. "Again," barked Sergeant Theron, his scarred face stern as he watched the young warriors repeat their blade forms. "The Emperor's enemies will not wait for you to perfect your stance. Move as one with your weapon." In the vast chapel barracks, battle brothers knelt in ordered rows, their morning prayers rising in a low rumble of ancient High Gothic. Incense drifted between the columns as Chaplain Voss moved among them, his skull helm nodding in approval at their devotion. The armory levels rang with the sounds of maintenance rituals. Brothers cleaned their bolters with reverent care, each piece laid out in precise order as they recited the litanies of upkeep. The sharp smell of weapon oils mixed with the eternal scent of metal and promethium that permeated the ship. In the librarium, Marcus and his fellow scholars continued their research, though the whispers in their minds made concentration difficult. The rustle of ancient parchment and the scratch of quills provided a counterpoint to Brother Arcturus's steady transcription of their findings. Deep in his private chambers, Captain Zavis sat in meditation, the dragon patterns on his robes rippling in the candlelight. Thaddeus's medicine had dulled the headaches, but the dreams remained. On his desk, star charts of the Nephilim sector lay spread out, their coordinates seeming to blur when he looked too long at certain regions. Throughout the ships, servitors continued their endless tasks. Chapter serfs maintained the countless systems required for void travel, and tech priests tended to the ancient machines that kept them all alive in the hostile void. The routine of ship life provided stability and purpose, even as they traveled through the reality-defying realm of the warp. 3 days. 3 days to rest, to prepare, to pray. Yet even in these familiar routines, there was an undercurrent of tension. Every warrior aboard knew that something unprecedented awaited them at their final destination. The whispers in their dreams promised that much, at least.